I have a special guest here. I've been connected with him for quite some time. I mean, this guy is all over the internet. And in today's podcast, you're going to learn a little bit about real estate. You may learn about coaching and building events and entrepreneurship and fatherhood. But most importantly, you're going to learn some ingredients to dominate 2024. So Jerome, welcome to the show.
Like my whole thing is there's a level of faith that you have to have in anything you do in life. And the way I feel is like, I can work hard, but I have to trust in God that there's going to be some type of outcome. And the only reason I say that is because I function like that in early years. And I sit back and I go, damn, I've been at this game for 30 years. I've been self-employed, and God's never not provided, you know?
Right.
And my philosophy is if you're doing things right, in the right direction, God will take care of the rest. You just have to be executed in the right direction.
Welcome to season 2 here at the Trailblazers Talk podcast. I'm so grateful for every subscriber, everybody who's been tapped in with us for the past season. And season 2, we are coming out swinging. And in today's podcast, I have a special guest here. I've been connected with him for quite some time. You probably seen him on Tai Lopez's content. You probably seen him on any type of real estate ad, event ads, marketing, any type of event in Vegas, not any type of event, but real estate specific events in Vegas. I mean, this guy is all over the internet. And in today's podcast, you're going to learn a little bit about real estate. You may learn about coaching and building events and entrepreneurship and fatherhood. But most importantly, you're going to learn some ingredients to dominate 2024 in your wealth, in your mindset, in your implementation. This podcast, it's about to go down. So Jerome, welcome to the show, man.
Joseph, thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, man. I think we've been trying to get this podcast for like a year now. Literally. I think since the last event you had Eric Thomas down here. He was on my podcast. I'm like, I got to get you on the pod. But of course you're too busy with the event.
I love Eric. Yeah. And I think we did. We just kind of missed each other's time schedule.
Yeah.
But you've been busy with fatherhood and
man.
being a parent and stuff. And thing is just, life just moves. But I'm glad I'm here today.
Yeah. I'm glad that
bro.
you're here for the season 2 launch, man. Like this
awesome.
This right here is going to set the stage. So one of the things I've been always curious, bro, like there's a lot of people on the internet who come out, whether it's like ads or whatever, but like when I first heard about you, it was from like, oh, this guy, he's a real estate guru with Tai Lopez. Like, bro, like it's not common for someone to come out the internet like, oh, you're this guy's guy, you're this guru's guy.
Yeah.
Like, how did that even happen?
I had never been on the internet until February of 2018. I had never had a Facebook page, never had an Instagram page, never had any desire to have a presence on the internet.
Okay.
And I started watching some stuff that Grant was doing through a mutual friend of mine who had referred him over to me. And at the time, we were working on trying to scale our real estate from utilizing our own capital into raising capital. And I landed up negotiating with Grant. I gave him a $250,000 investment in one of his properties, and my negotiation was that I wanted backstage passes to one of his 10X comp. So I landed up negotiating that. It was a successful negotiation. I landed up backstage. It's where I met Tai Lopez. I met Grant. I met Andy Frischella. I met Ed Milet. I met a lot of real big names in the entrepreneur space now, and they were just on their rise at the time, including Grant. I mean, those guys were already doing. I think Tai had the biggest name, and I took a liking to Tai right away, mainly because at the time when I met him, it was kind of like a shucks golly gee type of approach that he had. Wasn't a hard sell on anything. I wasn't even into social media marketing, didn't even know anything about it. So he didn't really have an interest in my brain of like, hey, I can utilize this guy's experience to help me scale wealth, even though I had been an entrepreneur for 25 plus years at that point in time. It was, but I knew that through proximity of the people that had the largest names, I could scale also my name. So I used their names as leverage to help me in earlier years, which we're still scaling it, right? But in earlier years to take advantage of. And the way I did it is most people go in needy of something.
Right.
I kind of went in with a big ego. You know, I felt like I'd done well. I felt like I was one of them. You know, I maybe wasn't known that I wasn't known in the space because I didn't have a presence. But I knew I brought some massive value. I'd been self-employed forever, and we've been successful being self-employed. So I kind of went in with not a shuck scholarly attitude, but I knew I could bring some real value to them. So before I asked for anything from them, because I didn't even know what I needed from them, in all honesty, I just came in and gave them resources that I knew they needed of mine. And the reason I knew they needed because I saw what they were doing, and I was scared for them because it was being done wrong, you know, in the real estate space. How the acquisitions were being set up, they were being leveraged. And so all I did is I offered assistance to them for free, you know. And so I didn't ever ask them for any type of compensation. I didn't need the compensation. We were already doing well. You know, and I didn't even know what was going to turn out of it, in all honesty. I think sometimes people go in with a ulterior motive where they know, like, they have something that they want for themselves. I didn't even know what I wanted for myself, in all honesty. I just went in and offered assistance. Their attorneys embraced it. Tai embraced it. And over the course of a couple years, a relationship and business developed and grew, and that's how we became business partners in some of the real estate acquisitions that we own. And you know, and that it just came from a foundation of giving more than taking. And
man, that you shared a blueprint. Like, I think those who build these really big relationships with big public figures and big entrepreneurs, they all have the same story. They all have the story of, I added value with no expectation, and just delivering value that they didn't have, going the extra mile, like with Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill says, right?
One of my favorite books.
Like, do you feel like that's the best way to build these type of relationships? Obviously, it worked for you, but like, do you think that's a really good blueprint to leverage?
I think it's different between relationships. It depends where you are in your life, right? So at that point in time, I didn't feel like I was needy, but I was actually needy in that time. I didn't know. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And at that time in my career, I was lost in how to start raising capital. I didn't realize I needed to build a personal brand. I was very naive to it. Not naive in business, just naive to what I didn't know, right? So at that time, that was the best way to build those relationships, was by delivering that value. So once you have that value, people know who you are. Some of those the other relationships get built. Your time becomes narrowed, right? So you can't exercise 100% of all those relationships where you just add value. Otherwise, you're working for free, and then home suffers, right? Your business is at home, your family, your relationship at home. So I think just being a good person, like follow through is important. Not over promising. Actions always speak bigger than words, you know, in any magnitude. You know, like even like I was just at Ryan's office. Ryan and I have known each other for a few years. We've tried having dinners together. Our same thing like you and I, you know, it's just that I missed Ryan's call, missed him for dinner in Miami one time, and we've just never hit the nail on the head, like meeting up and talking, hanging out. But we've always stayed in communication, right? Like I've always thought of him. I've always made him first of mind when I come to Vegas. I always reach out to someone like Ryan, you know, because I knew what he stood for. I respect what he's done in business. So the follow through and nurturing those relationships, as small as a text message might be, ways it's worth in gold. Because like for his event, when he runs his event, I would just like when I notice and I see an ad, I might not do it all the time. But let's say I open up my phone to look at my stuff and I see an ad and I know his event's that day. I'll say, bro, fucking crush it today. You know? Fucking crush it today. I'm rooting for you, bro. And because no one's doing that. So when I see something and I recognize it, I just try to let them know that I was thinking about them. You know, or if I see something, like I see someone say, bro, I saw your ad on this and this. Is that ad performing well for you? It's fucking incredible. Got my attention. I'll just let them know like what I saw from it. Just little stuff like that. And then over the course, it might take 2 years, 3 years, and then all of a sudden the world aligns, right? So I think the biggest thing, like I've done that with commercial brokers and real estate. In like 2008, I didn't buy an apartment complex till 2016, but I stayed in contact with these guys. When I had extra time, I'd go to lunch or take them to coffee, you know, and I became friends with them. And then so even though I hadn't done deals with them, they knew about me. I was telling them about my other deals. I heard about some of their deals. We just became friends. And so when I finally got serious in that particular space, those people tended to they would tend to favor me in acquisitions.
Right.
Or if they didn't favor me, they at least paid attention to me.
Right.
You know, so it's the way I've done a lot of business over the course of time. And my wife always says, you know, it seems like you always pay attention to people that you can benefit from. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's life, right? Like people, I mean, friends come and go, like over the course of time.
Right.
But relationships that you exercise are where they're actually built.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know if they'll be one of my best friends. All I know is that in the moment, there's attributes I can deliver to them, and there's attributes from them that I can also benefit from. And that's kind of the way life is built.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. I like what your wife said. Like, well, I liked where you put your attention to could either benefit you or wouldn't benefit you. Like a lot of people put attention to people that don't benefit them.
Yeah.
And then they live a really bad life. Like what you said, that's a game of life. Like I think it is a game. Like if you're intentional, like, hey, I'm gonna build relationships from people that I could get clients from, that I could add value to, that they could add value to me. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, because I know that I've done the same. Like I know that someone needs me.
Yeah.
And I'll take advantage of them. Like I'll take advantage of sometimes even free labor or labor in general, just from good people that wouldn't otherwise work for me or be around me if I couldn't offer and deliver them some type of value as well.
Right.
So we've gotten some strong employees and team members from the contrary, you know, and don't kid yourself. They're not there because they just, you offer these amazing personality traits. They're there because they're in need of something for them and their
100%.
family. Yeah. So you got to recognize it. And at the end of the day, if you walk away with a handful of really close friends in your life, you're blessed.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and the
good.
rest, you just respect everybody else
that
comes to your path.
I like that, man. I think all entrepreneurs need to have that mindset, because sometimes it could be guilty, like, oh, I don't want to take advantage of you, but the truth is, like, we're all taking advantage of each other to some degree.
Yeah, and it's not really taking advantage, right? So like it's you know, it's kind of like Jesus with his disciples, right? Like, I mean, did he take advantage of them? He needed them.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones that spread the word of Christianity. But I mean, you know, and they needed him and he needed them. It's the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you take advantage of the resources that are around you. God always provides, right? Like,
100%.
And I just always believe that. Like my whole thing is there's a level of faith that you have to have in anything you do in life. And the way I feel is like, I can work hard, but I have to trust in God that there's going to be some type of outcome. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I say that is because I function like that in early years. And I sit back and I go, damn, I've been at this game for 30 years. I've been self-employed. And God's never not provided, you know?
Right.
And my philosophy is if you're doing things right and you're moving in the right direction, God will take care of the rest. You just have to be executing in the right direction.
Yeah. No, that's truth, man. And I do believe God blesses people through people.
Yeah.
So, like, if there's the right people for you, like, there it is. There's your blessing.
Yeah. Yeah. In so many different ways. People,
Yeah.
Opportunities, everything, you know, and yeah, a lot of what we do comes through people, like even our deal flow through real estate, everything. It comes through who we know and who respects us, but it's how you exercise those and how you nurture those relationships that really depicts whether those relationships and knowing those people are going to hold any weight and value. Mm-hmm. But most people are about them, so it's all weight heavy in their benefit.
Man, that's so good. Man, I'm glad that we talked about that, because I think just those few minutes hold so much wisdom that everyone that's listening here, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to kind of go over, we said it earlier about like events and stuff, bro. Like, I know you're killing it in real estate. Like, I know you have a lot of different ventures in real estate, but like, you're also killing it in the event space. I think you're one of the top guys who are throwing events and not just doing hundreds of people. Like, your last event had thousands of people. Like, how did you go from real estate to I think I'm going to go into the personal branding space, I don't really know what this is, to then killing it with events? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't quite call it killing it yet, you know. There's always everything's in levels, right? So I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And but anything that you put your energy into should be 100%, right? So I teach my kids this. how you do one thing is how you do everything in life. So if you, and I'm known for real estate, but truth be told, I've been an entrepreneur and I own a lot of stuff in a lot of different facets, you know, in different industries, and I really consider myself just a whole, you know, entrepreneur at heart. But real estate has been my claim to fame because it's just where we've crushed it at the highest level in most people's minds, right? I like to be thought of as just a good dad and a good husband, hopefully more than anything, and hopefully I'm crushing it at that level, at the highest level, because that's really what's most important to me.
Amen.
But you know, yeah. So I set an example for my kids. I try to set an example for my staff. I was taught in an early age that people will always do what you do, not what you say. So anytime I do anything, it has to be 110%. And if I don't put 110% into it, I'm not doing it.
Right.
And if you're going to work for me, damn it, you better friggin' be willing to put 110%
So
in.
when did you realize you wanted to go 110% in throwing events? Was it like a money inspiration? Was it like people inspiration? Like, did you feel like you're helping more people by throwing events?
I still don't want to be in the event space. I'm just there, bro.
Funny.
No, yeah, man. I don't know that I ever decided that I wanted to give it 110% in the event space. It's just that I'm doing it. It seemed like it was needed in building the personal brand, and it was a tool and a resource that I had to leverage to build and develop our personal brand. And I utilized it as a tool to raise capital for our real estate, to scale our real estate and our bandwidth and everything that we were doing. So I did a small event and it was good. You know, it worked out well. 5 years ago, we had 100 people in the room.
Okay.
Then the next year we had COVID, so we did a virtual event and had like 1,400 people live at any given time, which we crushed it.
Yeah.
And that was all just marketing. I think we just got lucky because people were at home.
Yeah.
And we had enough time.
Did you have a lot of like big names on that virtual event during COVID?
Yeah, we did. We had a handful of decent names on the virtual event.
Do you feel like that helped with the attention?
Yeah, I think it did, but also value helps too. Right? So like you bring in a few anchors for the event space.
Yeah.
But those anchors are what draws people's attention, and then it's what you deliver that makes it most important. So then after that second year, you know, you have this community that you've built online that is worth its weight in gold, and that's the next year we go live again. It was a little smaller because it was still COVID, but we were ballsy and we went in and we pulled the trigger on a live venue, one of the first ones that happened.
So this is your third event.
It's our third one.
At the live venue. Yep. Okay.
And that was 2021, and we had about 280 people there, you know, and then we're like, okay, and it still seemed like a small stage. And that's where relationships come in. Then I started reaching out to people that had big stages that I respected, right? And this is where proximity and people come into play. So I started reaching out to like Pete Vargas and Cole Hatter and some of these guys that I respected in the event space, and started asking for their recommendations. Some of what they gave me, but very vaguely, because in passing it's hard to get all that.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to pay to play a little bit too, right? So how we scaled the event space is I gave percentages of my events to partner in partnerships, make it worth their time, and you learn in doing so. Yeah, and I think sometimes people get too prideful, going, okay, well, this is my event, and I'm not willing to give my profits to somebody else. And the way I look at stuff is, okay, if I don't give those profits to somebody else and I don't learn this game, I'm going to stay playing at a small level or do something catastrophic that might make me lose money in the space. So why not just invest in the next year's event by investing in this year's event by putting the right people in place that I know are the right people.
That's good.
And utilizing and leveraging their talents and attributes and paying for them to be able to do so.
Yeah. Who are like these partners, or like, if you don't mind me asking, who are these partners that you partnered with that made a huge deal? Yeah,
like Cole was a good strategic partner in the event space.
Yeah.
He had his Thrive event, and I learned a lot by just working with him. And plus, he also introduced me to resources. People like his event coordinators, who, his gal Whitney that actually worked for Tony Robbins for many years.
Makes a big difference having these people.
I mean, you get somebody who worked around Anthony Robbins and his big events for so many years, and then they're utilizing them for events. It's easy. The event became a lot more palatable and easier to actually put on when you have the right people set in place. How you actually structure it. There is a business model in the event space of how you deliver on stage to really move people emotionally through the whole event so that their takeaway is massive.
Wow.
Right?
So there's a whole formula to it.
There's a whole formula to it.
And do you feel like if you didn't connect with like Cole, like, do you feel like you'll be where you are in the event space?
I get there, and I might have gotten there like where I was at last year, maybe this year, but I would have been running a year, maybe 2 years behind. I would have figured it out.
That's still a big difference.
And I would have got it, but you're always running a little bit behind. You know, I'm getting older. You know, I'm 49. I'm going to be 50 this next year. I don't have time to waste. So my whole thing is, you got to be efficient with your time.
Yeah, that's good.
I know there's people like Gary Vee, and he's like, "Oh, you got all the time in the world, man. It goes fast."
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting back going, "You don't have all the time in the world. You got to be strategic, man. You got to use and leverage your time wisely."
Well, obviously, like for someone like you were financially successful before going into personal branding.
Yep.
Where in today's marketplace, a lot of people are broke as a joke, going into personal branding,
selling air.
Yeah, selling air, but like the amount of capital it takes to do personal branding, like to do it right, it's a lot, man.
It is. It's a lot of money.
Like how much have you invested? Like,
oh man, I don't
estimate. Like if you were to be like
several millions of dollars. I mean, we're spending strong six figures every month, you know, on advertisement now. So
wow. And are these ads pushing your events? Are they pushing courses? Like, what are they pushing?
Everything. We try them for everything. So
Okay.
we would try cold market, just pushing out content in general, just giving out free content so that people would know who we are. We did that for many years with no ROI. You know, I think we're $1 million in ad spend before we even figured out how to make $1.
Was the idea to burn money to figure it out, or were you trying to get an ROI, but it just took longer than a year?
I don't think it's ever to just burn money without. I think
sometimes
you
it feels like that, though.
But it feels like sometimes you don't even know. Like I didn't even know what my message was at first. You're trying to figure out your message. I know the ultimate goal is to raise capital, but like, okay, how do you target these people? How do you monetize them?
Yeah.
There's so much going on the back end that people don't even realize.
Yeah.
There's a machine, a well-oiled machine on the back end that people don't even see.
Yeah.
So it's not even just the ads; it's the labor, the payroll burn that you're experiencing between.
Do you feel like there's more hands in the fire like now than what you imagine? Like when you first started, did
hands down. I mean, I thought it was just like building you build
turn
a
on
brand.
a Facebook page, right?
Yeah, you put it on a Facebook page and you build some content. If you just keep doing it long enough, because that's what a lot of these guys make it sound like. Like, hey, just keep putting out good shit and
just
you're
keep
gonna
posting.
grow. Yeah, just stay consistent at it. That shit don't work. You know,
that's funny.
And 5 years later, you have 10 likes. You know.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a whole business behind it. The CRMs for the back end automation. I got 3 employees. I got 2 copywriters. I got 5 sales guys. We got a videographer, 2 additional editors. My videographer edits. We have I have a COO, a chief operating officer that manages those guys. I have a sales manager. I mean, there's a whole team.
Yeah, so do you feel like it's safe to say, like, if you want to do personal branding right, you need to treat your personal brand as a company?
Yeah, and we outsourced in the beginning. So people are like freaking out going, holy shit, like I can't afford to do that.
Right.
Well, we didn't know, so we outsourced to third parties in the beginning. It's just that we outgrew in our scaling, some of the small companies that made sense at the time just couldn't handle the growth of my expectations.
Right.
They could take a small personal brand and they do great as a third party affiliate that can work forever for somebody that's just hosting a small personal brand. It was never my goal, though. My goal was always to go bigger and always to be stronger and always to do things in magnitude. So as those companies became inefficient and we outgrew them, they're still friends of mine, but I started onboarding my own staff.
Yeah.
And that's, again, where relationships are important, because where did I get staff? When Tai Lopez and then we're downsizing, I was poaching staff and people that they weren't getting rid of because they were bad, just didn't have a need for them in the moment.
Right.
So we were able to onboard good staff,
Yeah.
But, just like anybody, I had to pay, to get there, that proximity to those type of people through masterminds and everything else.
Yeah, and I think what you just shared is really valuable, man, because, again, a lot of people are still trying to figure out personal branding, but I think the reality is you need to look at your personal brand as a company.
You do.
Like, number one,
Yep.
you shouldn't be doing everything yourself.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
like I see a lot of coaches or people in like different industries and they're doing it themselves. Like it just drives me crazy. It's like, bro, you could scale
Yeah.
10x if you just leverage.
Yeah, and what's hard is just like any industry, there's a lot of bullshit out there, and there's people that don't really know what they're doing. They're taking people's money, and I got taken. You know, I mean, I give a guy $30,000 to host an event for me, and I thought it was going to move its weight in gold. I show up, and I'm literally in the hood, just outside of Crenshaw in L.A. by a tire shop in this event hall, and I'm just sitting around looking around, going, okay. I mean, this place couldn't cost more than $1,000. Shitty lunch, filled with a bunch of quacky people. You know, 60 if there was 60 people there.
Wow.
And you know, and knowing now, you know, not knowing it back then, it was a good investment only because I learned a lot from that experience, right? But a total waste of money.
Yeah.
You know, great investment to learn the hard way. But a total waste of money. So you got to be careful too. And there's people that they can't afford to lose $30,000. You know, we chalk them off as a tax write-off. When you're young and broke, it's important that you make every dollar count. So when you're in situations where you're trying to make stuff like this grow, what's cool is when you're broke, creativity flows.
Yeah.
When you have money,
Yeah.
it can almost be a crutch because you leverage your money instead of creativity, and so
that's a
it
bar.
can affect you where it slows your growth down. So, and you have to recognize it, right? And that's what I was doing in the beginning. I was just throwing money at stuff, going, I don't have time. I had to make time, you know. So part of our ability to scale came from me slowing it down, I stopped throwing just money at it. And I actually became very conservative, and I had to think back. Okay, what was it like when we were building our first businesses? We didn't have that capital. Like how do we get creative where this business stands on its own 2 feet without Jerome deploying money every month into this business to keep trying to scale it? And this was even after 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it took me a couple of years where I was like, okay, and then once we figured out how to monetize it, then we were able to run with it.
Yeah.
You know, we're still on the infancy stages of running with it. You know,
Infancy, bro. You're talking about 20 million with your personal brand. You feel like that's still the infancy stage?
well, we're not there yet, right? So like that's the goal. I mean,
Okay.
we scaled from $1 million in just over $1 million in gross revenue. I think we did like 1.2 million in gross revenue last year, and then this year we're projected to do just under 5 million. Since we're sitting at the tail end of the year now.
Yeah.
I was hoping to hit over 5 million.
Yeah. And where is this revenue coming from? Like, what are you selling to generate this?
Events, ticket sales.
Okay. What's like the net profit on something like that?
It's a deficit for like on ticket sales. You got to have something to monetize. So our educational platform is what we monetize on the back end, right?
Gotcha.
So you got to give. You have to be willing to give to get.
Right.
And so our educational platform is what's bringing in the revenue. But man, leveraging testimonials and success stories has to be a massive priority. So we've changed a lot of what we're doing in the personal brand space. I made a lot of catastrophic mistakes, even to this past year. What helped us scale this year was we were building a business, but we weren't building a community. We were trying to sell, and I listened to Grant like, oh, you sell everything, sell everybody, sell everything. And then I started looking around at who was coming up, who was moving the needle, and who wasn't selling air. And then I recognized people like Pace, you know, and I just go, like, is my business model better than Pace? I like my business model better than Pace. I think, you know, but his is scalable. Is it Pace scalable? No, Pace is one of a kind, right? Can people put $600 million worth of commercial development on the books like I have? Most people can't, you know, but if I can help them make a couple $1 million in their professional career doing what we do, is that a needle mover for most people? The answer is yes, right? So that's the goal, right? And I started paying attention to the fact that like people like Pace were building not just a brand, but they were building a community. So I had to change things. Instead of selling people, I said, okay, we're selling people right out of our community because we're trying to force them for like renewals and different things. And I said, we just need to open this up and make it broader because through a community, we can just do so much more. So when I started realizing that, That's how we scaled this year, because people feel it. They feel they can recognize that you're really trying to do the right thing. They know you're trying to make a profit,
Right.
but if you make people feel like that's all you're trying to do, you lose. So the way we scaled it this year, and we got it to just under $5 million, is we opened our doors and we started embracing the community side of what we're doing.
Like selling people on a membership, or what do you mean by like the community side of things?
We're not selling people like on renewals. Once they're part of our community, we embrace them as part of our community forever.
Wow.
So, and then if they want to be a part of our higher level learning stuff, they have that ability to do so, but they don't feel sold all the time. People hate to be sold.
Yeah.
They'll buy what they want, and you have to bring the value. If we're doing our job, then they're going to want proximity to what we're doing nonetheless, because it's bringing value to them, and it's going to be a needle mover in their life. And what we were doing, we were just trying to sell them in all aspects, just to keep the business growing and affluent, and it wasn't working. We had losing months again.
I feel like a lot of people in this space do the same thing.
Yeah. So you got to be patient. Look at like, and I noticed people like Alex Hermosi and these guys where I noticed that they were just starting to give their courses away for almost nothing,
So yeah, I think Alex gives his stuff for free.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah.
This looks like I'm drinking a beer. It reminds me of like
Liquid
a Sunday.
Death, not beer.
It's water, but it looks like beer. Reminds me like when I was a kid, my dad having a beer on a Sunday football game
funny.
Or something, So, anyways.
Man, that's good, man. So community was the breakthrough that led you to higher profits and just experiencing more like culture. Because I think it's easy in this entrepreneur self-development space to make it about a profit and to make it feel like you're just trying to make a transaction.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you have to, because it's a business, right? Like, I mean, those people, their payroll doesn't pay for itself. I'm not doing this all out of the goodness of your own heart. There has to be a return on investment. Your time is valuable, So, but if you're building success stories, you're giving back, whether people are paying for it or not. You're giving back, because we don't have to do this.
Yeah. Well, what was the difference though? Because like you had, like what was the difference in terms of building community? Like what was that strategy what was that one thing you guys did differently?
It's retaining people. Like, how do you retain people? Like if you go someplace and you feel sold all the time, are you going to continue going back?
Probably not.
Even if you like the product, are you going to go back if you feel sold all the time?
If I'm being sold all the time, no.
No, because it's uncomfortable, man.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, and I won't either. So turning it from where we were always selling and people felt sold to feeling like we made them. What we had to do is creatively structure the business where they came first. Okay, it wasn't our business that came first, and it was stupid of me to have even went down the wrong road in the first place. But it just goes to show that we as business and entrepreneurs, we're not perfect. We forget things, even that we were mentored in. And my mentor told me years ago. He said the more you give back, the more money comes in. So, and he said, if the people you're selling are nobodies and you're a somebody, no money in the bank. But if they're somebody and their first priority and they're making money, then money in the bank. You got to make your people money. When you make your people money, you'll make money. So you just have to remember, like when you build community, it has to be about them first, and then yours comes second. If you make it about you first, then you put them second, you can't build community that way. But you can build community when you make everything you do about them.
That's good, man. I think that's something a lot of people in this space need to hear, because again, although we need to make a profit as entrepreneurs, we need to also think about the people we're serving. We got to love them more. We need to care about them. We need to make sure they're winning. Because you're right. Otherwise, there's no money in the bank.
No, it's not. And even like real estate agents, if you look at like a real estate agent, for example, I'll have real estate agents come up to me often and say, hey, I'm a new real estate agent. Can you give me any advice? And I always tell them to learn how to underwrite. But I think the best advice, really, like for a real estate agent, is that they're not really in real estate. They're a salesperson, and they're a transactional broker is what they are. It's all transaction based. They're just trying to sell somebody a house to get a commission. And when it becomes about that, that's why the industry is under fire right now. By the way, the National Association of Realtors is under fire. Lawsuits like crazy. They're talking about dismantling it. And it's because It's a very transactional business. It's a very cold and very transactional business. The value for the end user just isn't there,
Right.
because there ain't enough brokers to know what they're doing. So if you think about it this way, like commercial brokers are completely different. So a commercial broker, they gotta have relationships. Everything is relationship based. 90% of what a commercial broker does pallets into zero. They only 10% of their transactions actually ever go through, and so those guys are true professionals. They specialize, and they're not just transactional. They have to be relationship based. So it's kind of like the financial world, right? Like if you're a financial professional in the financial world, that stuff's all relationship based. People have to like you and trust you.
Yeah, no, that's so good, man. Relational capital is everything.
Yeah. So that's how we've scaled it. And so we just got to do a better job at it this year to take it from 5 to 20. You know, if we're gonna hit the needle on the head, and I might fail at it, and there's a good chance I will, but it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna push for it. And if like I told you earlier, if I hit 15 million in the personal brand business, what that means is my reach is getting bigger, my deal flows are getting bigger, my ability to raise capital for my real business, and that's what I call it. Like, this is my fake business. My real business is my real estate development companies. My fake business is my education business, because it doesn't make a lot of money, but it's still a challenge, man, and it still gives me bandwidth. So I still love the fact that what it does for us as far as resources are concerned.
Like, what's your drive to build it? Because like we just said, like your other businesses make you a whole bunch of money. This one seems more like a challenge. Like, what's the why that makes you face these challenges?
Yeah, I needed to scale. I recognized in like 2012, after the 2008 recession, that I was doing shit wrong. I was working my business like a job. I got too comfortable. The business did well. By 2016, I was so dissatisfied with where I was. I just felt like I had so much more in me that I even felt like my kids were watching me, and I was failing them in a fashion that I don't think I was really doing them any justice of really understanding what Dad had really done in early years. I feel like I was just leaving the house, like you work a job like my dad did, and showing up back home at the end of the day and not really giving them the real entrepreneurial, capitalistic, U.S. American, true heart and blood and tear way of what we did and what America was built on, right? I felt very unfulfilled. So in 2016, I thought, okay, I got to scale this. And I told my wife, I said, this is going to be potentially our last hard run that we can physically do. I mean, as you start getting in your mid 40s and your 50s and stuff, you don't want to be running at this level in your 60s and 70s, and so, not because your body can't handle it. I feel like I'm pretty healthy. I think my body can handle it, but why do you want to put yourself through that much stress? And why, if you do things right when you're young, why should you have to work to that magnitude later, So I said, this may be our last hard run, but if I'm going to do it, I'm not just going to do a run to build to go buy a bunch of Subway franchises like I had done in the past, or build a bunch of coffee shops or restaurants and whatever else we've done. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to take it to another level. So like my motivation behind this was like, okay, how do I raise capital? How do I really scale this? And I put my head back down into educating myself on how to take a normal real estate investment and scale it into a syndication, scale it into large millions of dollars, not an $8 million project, but how do I get a $70 million project on the books? And so all of this is part of that.
Gotcha.
This is all
That's
methodical
a lot of motivation
way.
there.
Yeah, because my wife always, she says, we've been tied down to our businesses for 26 years now.
Wow.
And I don't care what anybody says. If you're a real hard entrepreneur, there's no freedom and flexibility about it, man.
Facts.
I mean, you're friggin' working your ass off always.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And so those people that say that they're the contrary is total bullshit. And so you might have monetary times that you have some freedom and flexibility, but it is a friggin' grind all the time. You got to have some resilience in you to do what I've done and what you're doing, over the course of time. And so, like I tell people, I say, look, at a certain point in time, you have to be able to have choices. That's retirement to me, because I'll always work till the day I die. But like I told my wife just asked me, and it's a thing that, it's one of those things that, out of respect, you work this hard, but if you're working for the money, you're working for no reason whatsoever. It's a friggin' loss, because you'll lose everything else in life. And so as cool as the money is, it's the challenge is even better. But even better than that, it's what it gives the people that you love around you the resources to do. And if those resources are not even capable of some free time, you've lost. You know, it's worthless. So my wife asked, you know, my son graduates from high school in 2.5 years, my daughter in 4.5 years, or 5.5 years. And when they go to college, my wife just said, I just don't want to be married to all the employees, the chaos. We travel and we take our business with us everywhere we go. It feels like everything that we do surrounds around the chaos of our businesses. She goes, I just want to know that when our kids graduate from high school and they move on and go to college somewhere else, that we have the ability to pick up and go and not feel like we're restricted to a 4-day weekend, or
Right.
you know, if we want to go and spend a month there with them, we can.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what all of the driving factors are around what I'm doing now, is to build passive income. And it's hard when you have businesses that are successful to be able to replace that, where it's all passive, but you're still able to live that lifestyle and do what you do. Because I love the game. I love having the expendable income to play the game. I had to figure out a way to how to replace that, and that's where all this drive came into doing all of this.
Wow, man, that's really insightful. I mean, you would think like when you're earning millions of dollars, like yourself and your other businesses, that it's passive, that you could just leave. But it sounds like you have to have a really good exit strategy, which I think you're building through your personal brand, right?
Yeah, and I am, because I'm using it to scale our commercial real estate portfolio.
Okay.
We would have had an exit strategy, but not to the magnitude that we would want it. And the thing is I'd made some mistakes. Like even the way I built my concrete company, I didn't build it to sell it. No one taught me that. I was never mentored in that space.
Was that your first business you built?
It was the first one that I built independently from the ground up. And so I wish I would have known that I should have built an EBITDA positive company. I would have done things slightly different on the way I built it. By the time I figured that stuff out, I was at a place where I was making so much more in real estate and other stuff that the value of my time being spent in that to get a larger return on the resale doesn't seem to make sense anymore, because I can get, if I put that much energy into my real estate, I can get a lot larger return on that.
Got it.
So I should have built it that way, but I didn't. So the thing is that I work too much inside of my business and not on the outside of my business and the structure of the business. So I still land up living and breathing and eating, and I'm married to it still. That's a mistake that I made. I've learned otherwise since then. So now everything that I do is the contrary.
Got it. That makes sense.
So you know, you live, you learn. No one's feeling sorry for me. There's no violins playing for me. We make millions of dollars in that business every year. It's been the catalyst to everything that we do. And I don't feel sorry for myself. I wish I would have, you know, there's some mistakes that I've made in business that I wish I would have changed and did in earlier years. And now you just you figure out how to reposition and do things different as you move forward and scale other businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't make the same mistake twice, you know?
What was if you could say, what is the greatest mistake you've made in your entire career?
The greatest mistake, I mean, I don't know how great it is. I wish I would have scaled earlier. I regret idling through the 2008 recession, and I didn't idle through it. When I say it like that, it sounds like I did nothing. I did a lot. It felt like I was idling through it. I wish I would have known then what I know now, and that felt like I was scaling aggressively. I got so scared, Joseph, that like when 2008 hit, and I remember it was November, December of 2008, moving into January of 2009, and I literally thought it wasn't a matter of if we were going to lose something, it was what should we let go first.
Wow.
And that's how close we got to losing some of it. And I was sitting back going, damn, it's taking this long to build this net worth, and the risk I took to do this and to ante up on what I'm willing to lose. It just sucked. It was a shitty feeling, right? We didn't lose anything, thank God, but we got that friggin' close.
Yeah.
And because of that, though, it plays tricks on you. As ballsy and as and agile as you've been your whole career, because my son was born in 2008. You know, he was a baby,
Wow.
and we were at a different place. We thought we were going to be able to pull our foot off the pedal and enjoy raising our kids, and we weren't going to have to work that hard. God had a different plan. I'd land up having to put my head down and work harder than I had ever worked, even since the day I opened my business, just to get through that. So there was a fear factor in me going like, I got a kid now, I got a family, and I played it too damn safe, man. I fucked up because I played it too safe then. I should have went in, and at that time, that's where I should have put my balls on the line. I wish I would have scaled then. I wish I wouldn't have waited till 2016 to start figuring out how to scale.
It was like 8 years later, right?
Yeah, you know, I should have done it then. That's when I should have done it. If I'd have done it a decade earlier, man, I'd have been in a different place even now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good principle to learn, is like to scale when you are uncomfortable.
Yep.
And also when like, I feel like as a father, the best time to scale is when you have a baby. Like that drive
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I used a lot of my drive. It wore me out working for free, just trying to clean things up. And I can't really give you the recipe of what happened to me mentally because I felt like I was fine, you know. But as I look back now, and even when I remember like distinctively feeling like, damn, if this is like the whole means of everything I've worked, I have fucked this all up because I've
Wow.
worked hard. And yeah, we've made money, but I still feel like we hadn't made enough money and that I still hadn't set my family up right. And what was it all worth if I didn't set my family up right? You know, even though you make some money, like I didn't feel like we had moved a needle in life. So that's where this second run and the second hard push came from.
Man, that's good. I think that's a good mindset.
Yeah.
As you know, there's a lot of fathers listening to this podcast, and I think if we focus on setting up our family right with our business, I think that's a drive you just can't like.
Yeah.
It's just such a good drive. Do you feel like that's one of like your drives today? Because I know you've been talking about you want to be able to like go spend time with your kids in college for 2-3 months. Like when
Yeah.
that time happens, do you feel like that's like fueling you to get to the like that 15 to 20 mil with your personal brand today?
Yeah, but but we don't make no money on the personal brand. So more of the personal brand revenue is just more. It's more ego than anything just to get there.
Yeah.
knowing
So
that I
if your
pushed to it.
personal brand is 20 million, like you say you don't make no money. I mean, that's a lot of money. Like
Yeah.
is the net like less than 10%?
Well, I mean, it just depends. It could be if you spend it all back, if you put it all back into it.
That's fair.
We've made almost 0% on it because we put 100% back into
That's
it.
fair.
Right? So we don't make money on it. In all honesty, we to continue to just scale. I just keep dumping more. Every penny we make, we put back into the business.
Yeah.
Because the fuel that comes out of it funds what I call my real business, which is the real estate business.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to raise more capital. I have more bandwidth for deal flow. And those we pull 2, 3, 4 projects out of the ground that are each 50 million, 60 million, 70
Yeah.
million dollar deals
Yeah.
that pay for the rest of our lives and gives us the tax benefits that we were able to embrace from our ground up development. That's real money,
Yeah.
you know.
Man, that's good. So I'm gonna ask you this, man. For everyone that's like listening in, that they're like, man, this is crazy. Like they're talking 20 million. There's no money here. Like for everybody who is venturing into this like personal development space or
Yeah.
personal brand space, like what is, if you were to just like give them one line of advice or maybe two, let's just do two. Like what would those 2 lines be?
Yeah, don't be all over the place. I learned this from Sam and Daniel Kwok, the Kwok brothers. They helped me with this really, I've just consulted and paid for consulting with so many people. This is what helped me actually start turning a profit that I could start utilizing to grow in the brand. Is that find out what your true talents and attributes are. Focus on that. Don't be talking about a bunch of quacky bullshit. Become an authority in your space. Tai would tell me this. Goes, don't be all over the place, Jerome. Become an authority in your space. Just focus on what you want to be known as and what people want to take away from you, and just drive that until people really know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That might take a year, it might take 3 years, it might take 5 years. But stay focused on being an authority at something, not everything.
Yeah,
So
that's
basically,
good.
don't be a jack of all trades. Authoritize something, an area that you dominate in, and when you become an authority in that space, once people know you in that space, that's when you can start talking about other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're building a personal brand, figure out what your attributes are, figure out what the direction you're going, and just stay focused on that until you become an authority in your space in that.
No, that's good. And the second question is, how do you make some money, Nick? Because obviously, like, you're over here like, there's no money. And I'm over here like, man, is there really no money? Like,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there's money in it, right? It depends
Okay.
what your goals are, right? So there's money in it. If I wanted to monetize it and just take a profit from it, I just don't need the money to live on
That's fair.
anymore. So it's more important to me to reinvest that money into scaling.
Got
so
it.
instead of drawing on that money for profits, I'd much rather just use it to
Just like
to
fundraising
scale.
for you.
Yeah, because it helps me with my other company. You know? And the way I look at it is it's a tool. My goal now is that we are in that magnitude of scale is because, ladies and gentlemen, truth be told, I couldn't have palleted and imagined getting to where I am today if you would have asked me even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, it just things. as they evolve, your mind becomes more broader and things become more available and realistic to you as you scale. And so don't get intimidated by the numbers that I talk now. I've had to program my mind around that to make them really function and work in my own brain. But if you're, for me, since I don't need that capital to live on, I can use that capital to scale the shit out of my real estate brand. And the reason I want to do that is for my kids, because like I talked to my son about it all afternoon yesterday. And whenever they're willing to listen, I give it to them, because 99% of the time they're not willing to listen to dad.
Right.
So, now that he's starting to get the concept of money, he's 15, he's he's going to start driving, and we did a poor job educating them entirely about money. We use sports as an avenue to drive discipline and work ethic. And so we're a little late at the money game, which we should have probably started a lot earlier. So even though they're aware of it, now we're really driving it home. So the personal brand it's taking so much development and time. I don't want my kids to have to do that. So I'm going to keep it going as long as my kids have interest in doing what I do, because it'd be a damn shame if I let it go out of selfish greed because we're wealthy and I didn't allow my kids to leverage what took me so long to build. So now I keep it, and I'm going to keep it going until they decide to do it or otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to keep scaling it.
Yeah, I think definitely financial literacy is really good for kids. I mean, if you were to go back in time, what age would you start? What age would you have started this with your son?
Yeah, and I mean, we started. I think, we just didn't want it all to be about money either. We wanted to enjoy it. I look at Grant, and I respect entirely what Grant's done with his girls. But damn, their whole lives revolve around this. I look at that. Is that healthy either? I want my kids to also have their own bench to sit on, So I want to give them that freedom. I didn't have that as a kid, but my parents we didn't grow up wealthy. My parents didn't come from affluency, and my parents didn't have. So my parents gave to us, but we had, I don't want to call it garbage, but we had less than subpar stuff, So we didn't have the resources and scale to really go out and do greatness to the magnitude that I now realize we had the capabilities of doing. So I wanted to give that to my kids first, and give them the opportunity to lay their own path. But then I also want to be realistic in the fact that, damn, we have a resource path here that's a cash cow, and if you learn it, man, it's worth its weight in gold in more than one way.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I also educate them in it.
Yeah.
So it's time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have done any earlier. I think I think you can always do a better job as a parent. We all jack things up. We screw things up daily sometimes.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Just gotta love them, man. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out along with you. They're watching you, man. They're watching you. They know more than you think they know.
That's a fact. That's crazy. Yeah, that's so true.
So,
yeah, my son was like, "Daddy, you do this." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You how do you know I do that when I'm on the phone?" I was scratch. If I'm on the phone, he's like, "Why are you always scratching your ear on the?" He's 4. I'm like, "How do you know this?"
Yeah.
That's funny.
They get everything, man.
Yeah.
They're watching every move you make.
Yeah, that's so good. Man, I know I wish we could go longer, bro, but I know you have a hard stop. And I want to ask this last question, and we'll wrap up the podcast. If you were to... Okay, I think I have the question. This is the question. If your whole existence in the world was completely gone, there's no trace of you, but a piece of paper with one line that's framed in the Hall of Heroes for the rest of eternity, what would that paper say?
Oh, man. I think you would just say, life is short, get off your ass. Because life is short, man.
Yeah.
Life goes by fast. I think the last 30 years and how fast it's went by, and I just go, damn. When you have vivid recollection of everything that happened 30 years ago, and I look back and I'm going, damn, 30 years goes by that fast, I'm going to be pushing 80. Life is fast, bro. And so I just tell people, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it, man. I know you hear it, it sounds cliche, but it's not, man. You got to get off your ass. You got to make the best out of every single day. You got to push every single day. My staff probably hates me right now because it's the holidays and I'm on their ass. And I tell them, rightfully so. I tell them, look, guys, if I don't do it, no one else is.
Facts.
This is my job.
Yeah.
The company's going in this direction. If we're going to keep it going in this direction, we need to pay attention to what we're doing, and we got to push hard.
Yeah.
And so that's all I would say.
Man, that's a bar. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And, man, I appreciate you coming here, too. I know you got to catch a flight soon. But I just want to thank everyone that's tapped in with this podcast. This is the first episode of season 2. So if you love what you heard on this podcast, maybe this is the first time you're watching us, make sure you subscribe because we have more fire coming on the next episode. And Jerome, my brother, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.